Welcome to Drivers Talk Radio, hosted by automotive expert and championship-winning race car driver Rick Titus. Join Rick and his team for informative and entertaining discussions geared for automotive enthusiasts and consumers alike. Enjoy in-depth interviews with industry leaders and influencers. Now, originating from its studio headquarters in Las Vegas, it's time for Drivers Talk Radio and your host, Rick Titus.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rick Titus, and that gentleman over there, of course, is Spencer Crick. I'm the host, though he thinks he is, and he's the producer. Having said all that, we have a lot of fun doing this program. We are coming to you from the heart of the Heritage Center here at the Shelby American building. This is where Shelby American actually manufactures a lot of Shelby Mustangs. They still make the continuation 427 and 289 Cobras. And of course, they dress over the Raptor pickup trucks and even some Focuses, or Foci if you're into the volume of it. Of course, you come to this facility just off the Las Vegas Strip. You can take a tour for free of both what we call the museum, they call the Heritage Center. You can see a tour of the assembly plant where they build cars, and boy, did that place stay busy. And then, of course, they've got this great gift shop. It's really a step back into history. It really makes you appreciate the legacy that is Shelby American Automobiles. Of course, lots of great photos, really rare shots. Of course, good for me. I see a number of photos of my father when he was driving for Shelby back in the 60s, so kind of fun to do. Well, we've survived Thanksgiving, and I guess that's something of an art. And, of course, and none of us had the courage to go out and be trampled to death on the shopping that apparently proved to be a little less than as big as was anticipated, Spencer.
Well, they keep spreading it out over days and days, and I think it's kind of losing that appeal. Plus, I mean, Best Buy and places like that were saying, oh, well, you could just go to the internet and do all that, and people were doing that.
Yeah, well, how'd it go for Best Buy, you think, on the internet?
Yeah, when I went and looked, their website was down. So, that's probably not a good thing.
Quite frankly, in a way, I hope it's payback for those who felt it necessary to be open on Thursday, on Thanksgiving Day. I think that was completely inappropriate. It's completely unnecessary. There's plenty of opportunities to buy stuff. I don't think we have to get so stupidly blatant with our greed that we need to be open on Thursday. And I talked to a lot of people who boycotted it on purpose.
Well, the thing is, I've worked some retail jobs, and I would get the people coming in on holidays, and they'd be like, well, it's a shame you have to work today. I'm like, you are the reason I'm working today.
That's right. You could have come yesterday or tomorrow, but no, you had to come today. So. Yeah. I understand. It's just not right. But having said that, hey, we got a lot of news to share with you. Of course, a little later in the program, we will do our book club, which is sponsored by Motor Books. And this week, we're going to give away Four Wheelers Bible. That's a little bit of blasphemy. But having said that, the Four Wheelers Bible, second edition, written by Jim Allen. We'll get into that a little bit more later and tell you how you can sign up for that. Spencer, I guess my leading news item would be the following, and that is counterfeit tires coming out of China. These tires look like an authentic brand, but they are not built to near the construction value, and they are starting to have failure rates now. Let me tell you how this got even discovered.
Okay.
Consumer Reports magazine was doing a study on a comparison of tires. During the course of that testing, they had tire failures, and it turned out, with research, and praise them for taking the time to do it, they found out counterfeit Chinese tires.
Now, when you say there's a cheap knockoff coming out of China, I'm like, well, that's not news at all.
No, that's China.
That's so many things. In fact, golf clubs are a big thing to get down there.
Yeah, everything's...
But you're saying these tires fooled people who were testing this vehicle?
Well, they bought tires thinking they were getting tires that were the real deal. Consumer Reports doesn't take anything for free. They buy everything that they test. They bought tires from a local supplier, and subsequently, during the course of testing, had this same knockoff brand fail several times. And further research, i.e. by contacting the authentic manufacturer, who immediately wanted to investigate, said, we didn't make this tire.
Ooh.
It's not built to our standards. It's not our compound. It's not our steel casing. None of this matches what we produce.
Time to get in touch with that third-party distributor then.
Exactly. Yeah, that cat's obviously buying tires at the right price and not sharing the wealth. But this is the kind of stuff we have to watch out of this country that alleges itself to be an ally of ours. Of course, they about own us at this juncture. But I won't get into that soapbox. But just want to get one more indication of how China likes to play the game.
Jeez. Well, I've got more news on the front of Takata because we kind of have to.
And explain, Takata is the airbag company.
It's the
front and center of the news right now.
It's the airbag company that's under so much heat.
Yeah,
so,
for killing people. Yeah, some people are touchy.
Yeah, and maybe that's some people's hot button. But I told you last week there's about 10 million, 11 million cars that need to be recalled.
Right.
You're asking a small up and coming business to replace all those airbags. There's no way they're going to be able to do it with any speed at all.
Yep.
So what they've actually done is they've contacted Automotive Americas, which is the world's largest airbag manufacturer. And even the president's like, I want to help, but there's just so many hurdles to get there that we need time. It's going to cost us so much. There's too much.
This is a very complex. I realize this thing has been taken for granted for the large part, this safety device, but this is a complex device, and it has to work in some pretty tricky environments. The biggest problem is going to be, quite frankly, that Takata was the world's largest supplier of the inflators. They made more inflators. Well, if you're going to pull Takata out of the loop, particularly on the replacement side, you're going to need an awful lot of inflators, and nobody's in a position to produce 11, and now I hear the number swelling to possibly 13 million airbags that will need to be recalled.
Autoliv, which is out of Sweden, would have to spend $30 to $50 million in cost to up production specifically for that. And keep in mind, they still have to fill other orders.
Right.
Those airbags have to come from somewhere. So, man, we're still trying to dig our way out of this. Takata, oof.
This is
brutal.
This is a brutal situation. It's inhumane, and unfortunately, people are driving down the highway. And based on some of the driving I saw this morning, in quite the I guess they're all over Thanksgiving and all about now. It's all about me again. Saw some incredibly rude driving this morning. But having said that, with no idea that they've got a hand grenade right in front of them in the center of the steering wheel. So
it would make me a better driver.
I'd be careful, folks, because you just don't know. I love to pick on California for a number of reasons. It's a state that's run pretty poorly in terms of how it protects its own residents. It views them as nothing more than a bank, having been there for a lot of years and only left fairly recently. But some of the brilliance, there are people who wanted to make No Child Left Behind, and the school system is just too pushy. We need to make it easy for everybody, no matter where they come from. Well, give you an idea how far that's really deteriorated. The exit sign on the 710 freeway, which is known as the Harbor Freeway in L.A., it's down by the airport. They put up a new Olympic Boulevard. Olympic Boulevard is a very important street there, and it gives you a lot of access to industry as well as to the airport itself. Well, the Department of Transportation, California, put up they spelled it a little bit differently. They misspelled Olympic Boulevard and had to pull the sign down after a few people called in and said, I don't know what it is you're shooting for, but that ain't it. So
if you're on the internet for any amount of time and you spell anything wrong, you will hear it from everybody.
Yeah, well,
I can only imagine what it's like to be working the phones at the road place going, you messed up the spelling of Olympic, and hearing that 90 million times.
Oh, it's just incredible that they would misspell the Olympic Boulevard, a famous street in L.A., but oh well. You got your highs, you got your lows.
Swing and a miss.
What other news you got, buddy?
So, Mini, as you well know, nobody gets the use out of that platform.
Oh, that platform is being used for
everything.
But
we're going to see an end to that because they've decided it's gone too far. And they want to trim down to 5 cars.
Thank you. I wondered at what point did they say, wait a second, we're duplicating our own efforts here.
The hat's got to be empty. There's no more names left.
And then there's that, too. But at what juncture, and frankly, I've talked to a lot of automobile manufacturers about this topic. How many cars do you want on dealers' lots? How many different models before you're pirating from yourself? Perfect example, the reason Ford got rid of the Ranger is because they were pirating from F-150. And other companies have figured out, hey, that's right, because the price walk's too small. You might as well just step up and get the better truck, the bigger truck. And I wonder with Mini, how many of these eggs you're going to pull out of the basket that start looking like the same egg. And I think we're there.
We got there.
Yeah, being involved in RVing and really seeing what a whole nother life that is, and how interesting it is and how sophisticated and developed it is. I found quite by accident, by going through Camping World, I found a stack of RV Life magazines. I subscribe all the appropriate RV magazines.
That's
not
a
that there's
heavy-duty
ton of them.
magazine.
Well, it's not real thick, but it is large, and it's got great information in it. And this thing's not a lot of money. You can pick it up at Camping World for free, and then you can subscribe to get it every month. They do a very good job. My hat's off to this lifestyle magazine called RV Life. You can go to rvlife.com and subscribe quite easily. Good magazine. I really like it. Hey, I wanted to thank our field reporter, Ron Johnson, by the way. He's the one that turned us on to. He's a former expat of California, like myself. He's living in Texas now. He sent me this story, and then, of course, the first McLaren P1 suffers serious crash in Dallas. If you go to Wrecked Exotics online, you can find... And as Ron Johnson likes to point out, just because you bought an exotic car doesn't mean you know how to drive an exotic car. You will be amazed, from Ford GTs to Ferraris to Lamborghinis to McLarens, you name it. People find a way to stuff them in a fence, around a tree, over a pole, on top of other cars. And that includes some of the law enforcement agencies in foreign countries that use them as well, or attempt to use them for a brief period of time. You'll be amazed how creative, despite all the electronic stability programs and the driver assist programs.
You can only do so much.
They can only protect you so much. At some point, you will pull a bat out and hit yourself in the head with it, and people find ways to do it. So
I could kill a few hours on that site.
Go. That's right. Go for your next news piece there, my friend.
Well, we don't have much time left,
Nope.
but I will say this little tidbit. BMW and Tesla are teaming up to make better lightweight components for cars.
Right.
And that's an interesting thing. Which is
That's
why I
it?
brought it up. Yeah.
That's why
That's all I got. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, you got 40 more seconds. You could have done something with that. But having said that,
I can sing and dance in front of the
these
camera.
are two sophisticated companies working together to try and get more and more advanced, and I think they'll pull it off. Real quick before we go to break, this gives me no delight to report, but to show you that we don't have a bias, despite the fact that I like the Salines, and I've driven with them and been associated with that company. It appears, based on their own posting, that Saline Autosport is right on the verge of bankruptcy again. Gosh darn it. Despite their best efforts to the contrary, they've got themselves pretty upside down once again, and I don't know if he can pull it out this time or not, but here's hoping. With that said,
Fingers crossed.
exactly. AM/FM listeners, we truly appreciate you being with us all across the country. Thank you so much for that. We're going to break now for local advertising there. For those who joined us online, we'll be right back. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. My name's Rick Titus. That young man over there is, of course, Spencer Crick, and you see that I have two special guests in studio. Now, if you watch this program with any kind of regularity, you'll recognize these faces. Of course, they are involved with Elio. This deep for you, pretty darn deep for you now. You know, we've been talking about SEMA, and this is kind of we're swinging at the ball twice on this deal. I want to talk about Elio and what they learned while being at SEMA. And, of course, the first time you had a major announcement there. First time you guys have actually displayed at SEMA. I kind of want to get that take. We've had a journalist take. We've had a buyer's take. I kind of want to get a sense of it. For you, what did you think of that traffic?
What a candy store.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Shiny objects everywhere you look. Oh, it was a great experience for us at Elio. It's just been a week of milestones for us. You know, SEMA was fantastic.
Now, let's be honest. Did you really get to see much of the show?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
Nor you.
No, we were working.
You realize it's 44 miles of aisles. If you walk it, you walk 44 miles.
I had a hard time from the door to here, Rick, so the 44 miles is out of the question.
Just getting, I'm completely sympathetic. I'm one of those guys, the journalists that go, maybe the show's gotten too big. But it's one of those shows you have to go to because, as you saw, it's about the people as much as it is about the hardware.
Well, you know, as a first-timer, I kind of equated it to the Disney experience. You know, I'm going to go to Disney. I can't see it in a day. I need 3 days to see it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's the trick.
Right.
You have to. Now, will Elio come back? With all the touring you're due, will Elio come back to SEMA?
Yes.
You think it's worth that money?
Yes. I mean, to play in that segment, you need to be there. And we've gleaned so much information, and so many suppliers out there are coming to see us.
That's the one thing I don't think any of us expected. You know, I'm a big fan of this car. My audience knows that. So you guys know that. I didn't think about the fact that there would be, because of the way the company's being set up, that the aftermarket is going to be the supplier of all the accessories or hop-up pieces or customizing pieces. There they are.
Right.
Not a lot of airplane tickets involved with that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, we had several turbo groups come over to us making turbos, sunroof folks coming to see us, valve stem folks coming to see us. It was the perfect spot. So you want to customize your Elio? They were there.
Very interesting. Would the Elio tolerate a sunroof, a foldback?
It will. We can't talk about that, though.
Okay, we're not going to talk about that. The blessing is it the bottom end of your engine is being built to tolerate the kind of compression numbers we were talking about with the turbocharging.
Absolutely.
I assume, Elizabeth, I mean, I know Infinite Skyz is very involved in a lot of areas, but this had to be your first SEMA show, I assume?
Absolutely.
Now, CES, is that a show you'd be inclined to come back for, the Consumer Electronic?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would you, to display or to see what's going on in the business?
Both.
Both? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting.
Yes, both.
This is your first time to be basically a displayer there, a presenter there. How did you feel the turnout was and the reaction to what you announced?
It was very exciting, and obviously it's exciting for us. It's exciting for Elio, but the joy was watching the excitement on the Elio reservation holders and the folks lined up to
again,
to
I
make
didn't
a
think about that impact. That's the first they had heard about that, huh?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, wow, and I'm like, and one lady this morning said, I have an Audi and I have a hotspot, and I only used it a couple months and I turned it off because that's all it was a hotspot, And I'm like, no, we're a connected car. And oh, by the way, we're a hotspot too. So.
See, I think this is going to be, and I actually heard in other places people talking about it, by the way. It was actually being discussed in other booths, which I thought was nothing but good news.
It is.
But great. Elio, in and of itself, did create quite a buzz. Now, I think we should hold hands, sing Kumbaya for the poor guy that was in the booth next to you.
Yeah, it was a good man. And
apparently
a
nice
idea.
guy.
Yes.
If you needed a quiet place to just, because that was quiet in that booth. Here you've got this rather spectacular bright orange Elio.
Right.
It's the talk of the show, a three-wheeler, tandem seating, air conditioning, airbags, all these things. You can hear that we're here at Shelby American. They've got one of the.
Are they dyno testing the Elio back there? Is that what they are? That's what I thought it was.
I told you that turbo would wake that thing up. You can hear one of the 1,000 horsepower cars being tested out back. But this poor guy had a front end to turn your motorcycle into a three-wheeler, and it was more money than a complete Elio.
Correct.
I don't know how it costs so much to do what he's doing, but wow.
Well, engineering costs are engineering costs, and he created something. But before Elio came along, folks' expectation levels of what you pay for things weren't Elio level. They were higher.
Good point.
Right? So, at the time when he was probably going through his design and his engineering, it made sense. But.
Well, and this is going to apply to you as well, Elizabeth, and that is, there's a guy that's probably he's got to spread those costs over maybe 1,500 units if it goes well.
Right.
You're not playing in the 1,500 unit take rate here.
Right.
No.
So you have the opportunity to be more cost engineered over a broader spectrum of vehicles, and that's kind of a big effect.
Great point.
Now, you were at a place that, frankly, if there was anywhere there was going to be big skepticism for both of you, this would have been it.
Yes, it was a dance that we weren't sure we had our steps down properly, right?
Gotcha.
We were nervous.
We were wearing the right shoes.
Yeah, we're in the big arena, and it turned out to be just the folks were very welcoming, first of all. The other suppliers and vendors were just excited as heck to see something like Elio coming along.
Absolutely.
And they have a new platform to work with. So it turned out, or is turning out, to be phenomenal.
A good thing. That said, were there people inquiring, industry people, on just exactly what it is you're up to? Because someone's going to have to respond. Ultimately, they're going to have to respond, Elizabeth.
Yes, I had quite a few. Well, you could do that in any vehicle, right? And of course,
I didn't
the answer
think
is
of that. You're right.
The answer is yes. And I had several our business card, but Jerome asked me, a couple months ago why we chose Elio, and it's because we believe in the car. We were reservation holders first, and once we were excited about the reservations, excited about the car, we said, the only thing that would be better is if it were connected.
Yeah.
And then our wheels started turning, and we started dreaming, and we started developing, and and here we are. It's
All right, so
exciting.
here's the deal. It's good to dream when you've got a company behind you that can make it happen. It's one thing to have dreams you can't make happen, but you both happen to be with companies that are making the dreams come true.
That's correct.
The thing that's amazing to Elio, and I brought over some people, as you well know, to the booth.
Yes, you did. Thank
been
you.
in the business a long time. Have every reason to be skeptical. I mean, some of them drive. My friend Skeeter McKitterick, Porsche factory driver and prototypes in Europe, he drives very sophisticated stuff. Fell in love with the car.
Right.
This car has a way of just reaching out and grabbing you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a guttural instinct. Like
It is.
I get it right away. The simplicity, I think, attracts a lot of folks. The looks attract. And like Paul will say, he's told you before, we didn't design it to be cool. It just ended up looking that way.
So form following function this
Right.
time worked out pretty
Yes,
good, right?
Yeah, thank goodness.
Because you talk to Paul Elio, he is real quick to say, we're about aerodynamics, we're about aerodynamics,
Mm-hmm.
we're about aerodynamics. He really,
Good thing the wind's good looking, right?
yeah, well, the less of it you see, the better, huh?
Right.
Of course, the hard thing for me to hear is as you guys are now talking to tire companies about fuel-efficient tires, you're wanting to go the wrong direction for me.
Yes.
You're going to keep getting narrower, when in fact what I really like to see is some meats on this puppy.
We would never stop you from going aftermarket and putting a good set of
right.
meats on there for
Yeah,
you.
I was talking to one guy. I said, so if we cut the fenders, how hard will it be to do an insert to widen them out?
Yes. I've heard that before.
I bet that's come up. Exactly right. So you know what, Elizabeth, I didn't think about this, but Infinite Skyz has got to be thrilled. Yeah, this is a great launch platform for you, but this may well put you in other products, other cars.
Yes, and this is our first undertaking in the automotive arena.
I was just going to ask you, it's specific to automotive.
We have been in the chemical, oil and gas, healthcare industry. So this is our first, and I said it started with a reservation, and we have so much technology, so much capabilities. The ability that this will be the first car with a computer in it, with a hard drive where we'll be able to store the video footage from the cameras that are installed.
Well, see, I like that, the ability to remotely check on your car. I mean, it may be
Absolutely.
parked in one state, you could be somewhere else, and you can, on your
Absolutely.
iPhone, go there and visit your car.
Absolutely.
See, I think that's pretty darn cool
and
stuff.
actually on any device, you will be able to.
Oh,
So
really?
on any,
Okay, so not specific to
no,
anything from
any-
Apple necessarily.
Yes.
ElioMotors.com, ELIO Motors.com. How much information have you now linked on their site now with this announcement out?
Well, we're now a supplier. We're on the
Okay.
site, so viewers can go and find out about Infinite Skyz and why Elio chose Infinite Skyz in our technology. And also we've included all the information on Elio on our website.
Okay.
And it's
Now,
really
Infinite
exciting.
Skyz, spelled with a Z,
Yes.
would now have a link that talks about the Elio project. And,
Absolutely.
And does it more define what you guys are bringing to that car?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We're
some
we're-
of this
we're a
sheltered
little-
information?
We're a little quiet. Don't want to give everything away. So
and I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I understand that
We've
completely.
been flying under the radar for a couple of years.
I have to say,
Yes, we have. It's intentional. And there are no other cars, automobile manufacturers today that have this type of technology. So it's exciting. It's exciting for us, but equally as exciting for Elio.
If Elio, we talked to Paul Elio. I guess we should go to break. I'll go to break. We'll ask you this question. We come back. AM/FM listeners, appreciate you being with us. Please come back more as we talk about Elio and this new computer, onboard computer. Very exciting stuff that's going to be in this vehicle. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. I'm Rick Titus. That young man over there is Spencer Crick. And of course, I think you've already gotten to know the folks that are not only from Infinite Skyz, but from Elio as well, both Jerome and Elizabeth. You know that we are big fans of this car. And to our new 900,000 listeners, I'm telling you, you need to go to ElioMotors.com and see not only what Elio's up to, and you will not believe the following this car has got. We're this short of getting tattoos. That's how much all of us are into these things. And of course, now with your announcement, this car just goes another quantum leap in who it's going to have appeal for, because this particular accessory, I think, just so totally fits this car's buyer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The younger buyers,
Yep.
as well as the single moms, who want the safety and the security that this
good
connected
point.
card's going to offer them.
And there is a whole early adopters cult out there. I hate to call it that, but that's the truth. People who just have to have the latest thing. It's just, in this case, you have to buy the car to get the latest thing.
Right.
Here's the good news is, this car's less money than most technologies.
Absolutely.
Now, we're talking about the fact, because one of the things I do like with the mounted cameras, not only do you gain the immediate safety of it in terms of cars near you and things of that nature, with the accelerometer built into their computer, the fact that you could be in California while your car's parked in Tennessee and get a notification your car's been bumped into and turn on cameras and take a look at what's going on.
Well, and that's a real world aspect of this, especially with Elio, in that this vehicle will be left at the summer home or at the winter home. It's a $6,800 vehicle. So rather than leaving the golf cart there, well, they'll leave the Elio. Can they check on it remotely? Yes. So when I'm sitting in the sun, enjoying my Elio, when I go back to Michigan in the blizzard, my Elio's warm and toasty down there. I can turn it on and say hello.
That might make you hate your Elio, though.
A little jealousy. It's okay.
It's sitting in weather you want. And no, you didn't mishear him. It's $6,800 base price for this vehicle. $6,800 base price. Elizabeth, I wanted to talk. You mentioned the other day when you were on about a watch connection that you could, with an iWatch or
With the Apple Watch.
With the Apple Watch.
Absolutely. Yes, the SDK is out, and so we're actually able to develop the apps, and the remote car functions will be available on an Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is coming out in early 2015. The Elio is coming out in 2015, and how cool is it to be able to start your Elio on your new Apple Watch, to be able to look out of the cameras, and if you see something going on, obviously you can hit a record button and
okay, in geek atmosphere, you just went to 100,000 feet, okay?
Absolutely.
But I understand there are people who will love this idea.
I'll have an Apple Watch.
Not a doubt in my mind, dear girl. Not a doubt in my mind. Oh, you too?
Oh, yeah.
Really,
Oh, yeah.
Jerome? We're losing you to that,
I'm sorry.
too? I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. And it will be totally cool.
Well, and we make light of it, but Infinite Skyz is an Apple Business Solutions partner, and there's very few.
I was just going to say, that's not a
Here.
term you hear very often.
Right. So
If ever.
joining with them allows us to break into that area and have somebody that's been vetted by Apple, knows what they're doing, and Apple agrees on the same path that they're going.
Now, you touched on something very interesting there. You notice when you go to the website, eliomotors.com, that there are very interesting and powerful recognized partners
Yes.
associated with this car. A car that is yet to produce one off the end of assembly line yet. Yeah. Companies have so much faith in what you guys are doing to bring in partners like you've got, anchor partners that are saying, we're associated. This is pretty stout stuff.
Yeah, without the partnership, Elio wouldn't exist, right? And Paul's mentioned it on your show before, that the partnership arrangement is what makes Elio so strong and so unique. We just want to build a vehicle. Everybody else is experts in every other field. Let them be the experts in the field. Just bring that expertise to Elio.
See, that's what it gives you access to. There are so many challenges in starting a car company. Please. Right. We've seen more go away than start as of late. So the ambition and the focus you have to make that happen, the fact that you got partners that have the think tanks behind them, like Elizabeth said, we had a dream. Yeah, we had a company that could make it happen. That's what it gives you access. You could not have developed this.
No, not possible.
And you've got a product that's going to be ready the day the first one rolls off the line.
That's right.
Not that you're going to get one right away, even if you're on the list.
Maybe.
Good luck with that. But it does lead me to a question. I talked to Paul yesterday and asked the question that Kicker actually wanted to know the answer to. What was the perceived projected product number annually? And Paul gave me a 250,000 unit figure, which, by the way, is successful for any model of car. Very successful for any model of car. Do you have a guess at what the take rate might be? Because can you produce, if it's a 10 or 25% take rate for your accessory?
Absolutely.
You can make that happen?
Absolutely. Just with one of the partner manufacturing facilities in Houston, we can do 1,000 a day.
Oh, then you're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Kind of meet your
Might
numbers.
be able to keep up, right?
Yeah, just going to say, might just barely keep on to your numbers. Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you a question. This is putting the duck right in front of the egg, but Do you see continuing to develop what this thing is capable of doing? Do you see model versions of this down the road?
Absolutely, and we've planned for that. The harness that will be built into the Elio will have additional connectors. So as Apple develops new technology,
No kidding.
as some of the Android high tech companies develop some super fantastic device that will allow you to talk to the astronauts on the International Space Station, we will be able to add that to the system.
And I got to
without a
tell you,
doubt.
the fact that you're putting a wiring loom in there, whether you take the accessory or not, it's right there. It's like my Mustang GT. I wanted to keep the fog lamps in it, and I had actually bought a Shelby, and they remove them. And it turns out every loom has that capability. It just isn't on every. You don't have the fog lights on every model.
Well, it goes along with Elio's whole stance on, we're a platform, and we can make things modular. So let's say you wanted the cameras, but you weren't ready yet to get the rest of the system. You can add it later, and that's the beauty of it.
See, I
It's
think
not
that's
a
clever
package
stuff.
deal.
Absolutely,
it's part of it.
the really differentiator here is that we're starting with an iPad Mini, and it will be you will take your iPad Mini, or if you don't have one, you'll be able to get one from Elio Motors, and your iPad Mini will slide in, lock in place, and of course it'll be connected to a charger, so it'll be charging as you're using it. And then when you get out of your Elio, you can take your iPad Mini out with you. The iPad Mini isn't actually what controls the
So
car.
you don't sacrifice your iPad Mini.
No, absolutely.
It's not car dedicated.
Absolutely, and the thing is, when Apple comes out with the new iPad number 19, then that's what you'll
Exactly
be putting
right.
in your Elio. You won't be stuck with some technology, some screen that was, built in. That's the technology becomes obsolete in a
usually
couple of years.
captured in these cars.
We will always be ahead of the game.
See, I think that's good
Always.
news. You used a term just now that I think really is worth emphasizing, or more importantly, clarifying. Because when I think of a platform, as we use it internally in automotive manufacturing, I don't think it gets expressed appropriately to the retail public. Because Paul was talking about that. You've always said to me, Rick, it's a platform, it's a platform. I really am beginning to understand now what he means, or what you guys mean there, that you can customize this platform, this base unit. You can buy it for $6,800. It's very complete at that price, but you have the ability to plug and play on this thing any way you want to go.
And we believe that's really the way to go.
I think it's smart.
For customers, it's the answer. We don't need to buy things. We're so used to buying, if we need heated seats, we have to have leather. Well, I might not like leather. I might want heated seats without my leather. Infinite Skyz is set up the same way. All of our suppliers are willing to do that. And by making us just a simple platform, there's a lot of very thoughtful entrepreneurs out there that haven't reached out yet, but will. And they'll know that they can come in immediately and lay down their price and let the American marketplace determine what the value of that is.
I also like the fact that at $6,800, and maybe they can't afford the Infinite Skyz unit initially,
Exactly.
they can own the car for 6 months and later and add it.
That's right.
And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that really speaks to where this thing's been targeted.
Yes.
In terms of what the intent is, I think.
Absolutely.
Exciting times, my friend.
Yes, very exciting.
All right, last we spoke, you were at about 35,000 registrations, deposits on vehicles. Where's the stand today?
Well, like I said, it's been a week of milestones for us. So we've crossed 36,000 now, and
Oh, man.
halfway to the next big number. We finished the CNC on the engine. Goes into dyno in a few days. Let's see.
Your own engine. This is just amazing.
Right, a purpose-built engine. And
Yep.
and I think Paul hinted on that the last time, that when manufacturers build things, they build them for multiple platforms. So the same engine that's in this one is in that one.
I'm
and
quite
blah, blah,
familiar
blah,
with this, yes.
right? So it's not a master of any one of those. This is a tool in the tool belt, and when you reach for it,
Yep.
it will work every time. And it's designed to make the Elio function at its peak.
And do I understand properly, you can get a manual transmission version or an automatic transmission
Correct.
version? Is that correct?
Correct. They're both 5 speeds.
Now, the current take rate for automatics in this country is about 83%. Manuals are pretty much history. You know what I mean? Going away. It'll be interesting to see amongst this group, particularly, I'm going to let a little secret out of the bag here, if there was rumor of a spec racing series, You're not kicking me under the table, are you?
No, would I do that?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not going to go past that. Okay. But there could potentially be a spec racing series.
Who wouldn't dream of doing something
Exactly.
fun like
Because
that?
that makes what you have on board even more valuable to a racer.
Absolutely.
Because there's data here we want access to.
And with our computer and the processor and the storage, you can collect all that data and do all the analytics on it, something that you can't do today. So.
And just so you know, and I think I've persuaded the team so far, I'm pushing for factory tours, factory deliveries, museum, and I think there should be a gift shop. But you already seem to be pretty in tune with that
come on
stuff.
with us.
Yeah. Oh, this tour thing you're doing? Yeah. Did I mention I just applied for Medicare? Did I mention that to you?
No.
Yeah. Whoa, I don't know. All right, I'm getting out of here. All right, we're going to go to break right now. Thank you so much, guys. I think it was great that SEMA went well for you.
Thank you for having us.
Congratulate
It's
you.
been fun.
As always, we're going to continue to track this. This is Driver's Talk. We'll be right back. Thank you. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. Well, as always, we enjoy bringing you updates from, of course, the Elio folks. They had a great SEMA show. Of course, they are on the road all the time. And, of course, that news-breaking release that they gave there about how wired that car is going to be electronically, pretty cool. You could be in Kansas and check on your Elio parked in a parking lot in Miami.
It seems like a simple setup that, feels like it should have already been done.
Yep.
But it's an amazing idea, and I'm really looking forward to it.
No, I think it's pretty darn clever. I mean, you can literally check your car through cameras. You can, if your car gets bumped into, you'll get an alert on your phone.
You can see where your kid's going.
That's right. It's awesome that, oh boy. And then there's that dialogue. Yeah, exactly. Hey, let's get to our Motor Books sponsored book club. This week, as we said up front, we're going to give away Four Wheelers Bible. The Four Wheelers Bible, this is the second edition. I'm not an off-roader. It's appealed to me. The low-speed off-roading has appealed to me because I've been on some demo rides with guys who are really good at it. I've just never wanted to risk my own equipment to do it. But I got to tell you, based on what I'm seeing in here, they address just about every, I think, beginner question, and perhaps even for the more experienced by chapter, things that you should be prepared for, look for, what you should brace, don't bother bracing. Really is an updated newest vehicles and tools, traction, tuning, and other modifications, buyer guide for all makes and models, emergency recovery techniques, navigation, and field repairs. This is a really good book from Motor Books.
I'm more of what you call an accidental off-roader.
Are you? Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
if I'm off-roading, it wasn't on purpose.
You missed the off-ramp. Sorry. Yeah, trust me, a lot of people have tried that. That's as much off-road as most people get. But having said that, it's a very active hobby and sport, and a lot of enthusiasts behind it. And if you're thinking about getting into it, and I think with a second vehicle, one dedicated specifically to that task, I think it could be a lot of fun. I would really enjoy it. And this book, I think, is a great way in. Go to our Facebook page, and, of course, just click like us. Be the first to respond to the true-false question there, and we'll make certain, at some juncture, Motor Books will get that sent to you. I know some weeks that happens immediately, some weeks it takes a few weeks. But we'll make it happen. On the racing news, a lot of you may have known that Marcos Ambrose, who is the Australian that came to NASCAR 9 years ago, reasonably successful. Got a number of wins, both in the Nationwide Series and, of course, got 2 wins in the Sprint Cup Series. Has now retired from that. Is going back to Australia with his family, selling his home in Florida. He retired out of Richard Petty Motorsports, driving for Ford. And he's going to be driving for Roger Penske and a Australian sponsor down there in the V8 Supercar Series, which if you've never seen that on TV, you might want to take that in sometime. These are production cars powered by very powerful V8 engines. It really is kind of picked up where the Trans Am Series left off in the late 70s, mid-70s. This is where it kind of picked up, where the cars are actually cars you can buy and are built on the base platform, but boy, they're wicked quick, and it's pretty aggressive racing. I don't know that NASCAR is going to have him completely tuned up. They're not afraid to rub fenders at some pretty big speeds down there as well. This one shocked me this morning, Spencer. I saw out of National Speed Sport News a piece. There's a new racing series being introduced, and it picks up on the old Can-Am series. These cars were just they made the asphalt shake. I mean, these cars were road racing cars. These will be a spec series of Can-Am cars, and of course they'll be racing with sponsorship from, I just want to make sure I get this right, Pirelli World Challenge. They'll be picking up from them, and they've already got race dates at the Circuit of the Americas, that's out of Austin, Texas, Road America out of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Miller Motorsports Park up just by Salt Lake City, and of course Mazda Raceway at Laguna Seca. Those are great. Every one of those venues are excellent venues, and they're going to go in there in this unlimited racing series that they'll be running these Can-Am cars. Like, they'll look like the old Can-Am cars, but they'll have a lot of new technology, big block engines, a lot of horsepower. These will be crown pounders. These are going to make the earth shake for road racing cars.
Is this going to start this year?
It's going to start from 15. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep, they'll be kicking that series off. We're going to do more research on that because I obviously have a lot of interest in that old series. So that was, a lot of us consider that some of the best road racing that occurred in this country. It was unlimited. The aerodynamics were all experimental back then. And despite outrageous speeds, these cars were outrageously fast. Open cockpit, allegedly two-seater. That's Twiggy and a race driver. It would be someone very, very narrow that could sit in that second seat. They had covered wheels, a lot of aerodynamics. They only had one fatality in Can-Am, and that's something even the Trans Am series, where my father was killed, the Trans Ams had more fatalities, and those are production-based cars with full roll cages, and you wouldn't have thought that that was possible. But the Can-Am, despite wicked quick speeds and experimenting, really, this was the beginning of aerodynamics really being thoroughly applied to high-speed race cars. They did very well with it. They did very well. It was good racing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was good stuff. What other news you got there, buddy? Got some things you want to share?
Actually, since I've been appointed the Scion ambassador somehow
I see,
of this place, they revealed a new car, which I didn't get to ask Cam about, but it's the Scion IM, which is going to be one of those hatchback little cars that are under 20.
Okay.
And I thought it looked interesting. I thought the front of the car was great, but the back didn't really quite go with the front, is what I thought.
You know, we see that from time to time, designs where it doesn't all exactly fit together. Are you saying this is is this kind of a smart car, more of is it bigger than a smart car? I haven't seen it.
If you know anything about Scion, they've had the XA and the XD, which they're kind of struggling to find that car that's not quite the XB, that's kind of that smaller, compact, like a Ford Fiesta competitor is basically what they made this car to be. And I look at that and I look at it and I go, I'm not sure how well it'll be received or how well it's going to do.
Well, not to mention what's just coming into a very crowded and highly competitive marketplace,
That's the big concern.
It's very interesting. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you couldn't find a subcompact car in this country. There was a few Japanese products, and that was about it. And then dealers started lamenting that, people are after gas mileage now and less expensive cars, and pretty soon everybody had subcompacts, and in some cases 2 and 3 versions of them. And it's not, the body count now is over 44 that you can choose from. Do you really want a piece of the low end of the market where the profit margins are razor thin?
Well, now we're back to, I haven't seen any numbers on it, so I don't know if it has anything that would really set it apart from those cars.
Right.
Because you've got to bring something if you really want to, you've got to attack that market. You can't just go, oh, well, here's a car. That's not going to work. And I think that's the same problem they've had with the XA and the XD.
Well, I got to tell you right now, if you own a dealership and you have a detail person that has a California Duster, I'd keep it out, because with gas prices falling down as low as they have, with predictions of it going even further down.
I heard $2.
Yeah, $2. Some predicting sub $2. That's a lot of optimism in one spot. These subcompact high mileage cars might get a mite dusty in the old showroom. So people will be looking, and you look at SUVs, crossover SUVs, mini SUVs, and even pickup trucks getting such improved fuel economies. People may shy away from less car.
Well, according to all the news people, those are gas guzzlers, Rick. What are you talking about?
Well, that's because news people know, not very much. They only know what's on that prompter. Gas guzzlers, just what an insulting term. If they would step out of that artificial world and actually look at vehicles, they'd understand these things are accomplishing today what subcompacts accomplished just 10 years ago.
I do like the idea of a 25-mile-a-gallon car being called a gas guzzler.
A gas guzzler, yeah. Good luck with that. Yeah. but they're out there and they're doing it. So and so it goes. I had an interesting experience. I bumped into a gentleman over the weekend who had just turned back in his Camaro. Very, very disappointed. Got tired of the recalls. Got tired of all the problems. Got tired of the smoking. Problem after problem after problem. Bought it in January. Lost $5,000. Turned it in and bought a Toyota Tundra pickup truck. Said, you know what? Enough.
Wow.
I'm done. I'm going to get
Tundra?
Yeah. Well, I said just good engine. I like the engine in that Tundra.
It's a luxury car.
It's a luxury car. It's a Camry with a pickup bed, but depending on how you use it, it will do the job.
Oh,
just
totally.
Right. You know what I mean?
I've got a friend who's got a Tundra. He uses it pretty much exactly for that, and it's perfect for him.
Exactly right, and I do like that engine. Once that thing gets a lung, Katie bar the door. It will hustle. It really will hustle. Automotive news is one of our key sources of information for this program. It's not an inexpensive industry publication, but it is weekly, and it really does keep us abreast of everything from the politics of this business to what's going on in Washington, what's going on at the car companies, what's happening at the top and the middle of the car companies, and of course what car companies are thinking, future thinking. Every week, Spencer, I sit this publication down. I know I've said this to you 100 times since we've been working together, that I continue to be amazed at how complicated, how sophisticated this business is. The automotive industry it's not for the faint of heart. I hope Elio and Tesla and these cats that are trying to get into this gig understand this is a difficult gig.
Even when it comes to the automotive news part of it, if you're reading an article like the sentence I summed up with BMW and Tesla,
right.
that was a page.
Yes.
Even the small things are really drawn out, and they have more details than I ever thought about.
Well, because there's agendas behind them.
Oh, yeah.
People always say to me, you know what this company ought to do, what that company ought to do, and I used to be right on that same page. Yeah, that's what they ought to do. Then you go back there and you spend time with them, or you go over there and you spend time with them.
That's why.
And all of a sudden there's logic behind the decision and a whole lot of consideration for why they're doing things the way they're doing it. That doesn't necessarily make some of the mistakes go away. Case in point, General Motors, which alleges to be cleaning up its culture there. That's been a brutal company for a long time in terms of how it was managed internally and the way it treated its key people. They've made a lot of mistakes, and it's going to take them a lot of years, I think, to overcome that. Gosh darn it, I hate to see that kind of mess go on. Ford being very aggressive about continuing, and this is very interesting to me, to learn from Europe. Jim Farley now being sent to Europe to manage that program out there, and like he says, it's a great lab for learning because Europe has made edgy economies, expensive fuels, cramped conditions, and they've learned how to adapt their vehicle designs and their marketing programs to work in that environment. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what Jim comes back with, because this is not a guy with his eyes wide shut. This cat pays a lot of attention to everything. I think that the top of Ford knows, Mr. Fields knows what he's doing by sending Jim there. That's the right guy. That guy will be a sponge and come back with a lot of clever ideas. But, of course, the LA Auto Show, as we talked about with Cam Benny, our field feature editor here, covered the LA Auto Show for us. We've got Detroit, New York, Chicago all coming up. And total, there's about a little better than 66 auto shows that the manufacturers send teams to. So there are vehicles out there traveling on these car carriers or inside these car carriers all the time to get to these different locations. In any event, a lot happening. We hope you got some news out of it. Appreciate the folks from Elio taking time after the SEMA show and coming in and kind of giving us an update on what they've been up to and where they're headed. And, of course, as always, we wish you open roads and safe motoring. Be safe out there. Look forward to talking to you next week when we talk to the people from Phoenix Research about exactly what goes on when a recall, how that ripple effect affects consumers, showroom presence, and, of course, the aftermarket value of vehicles. That said, you take care. Talk to you next week.